Welcome to this next talk about digital identity. Digital identity is one of the most mentioned topics now in our sector, and very soon digital identity will be a key part of our daily lives, a market standard whether to facilitate access to services like e-commerce, e-government, healthcare or insurance, for example. It will simplify our everyday life and our mutual interactions across Europe. So welcome to this panel and to International Sales Director from Nets, Louise Roland Olsen, Roland Eichenauer, VP from Business Development IES at Nets. Also warm welcome to our special guest, Martin Poulvesen from KPMG Denmark. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's start with a quick round in this panel, asking you, is digital identity our new tomorrow?
Well, I think if you look from a Danish perspective, we are quite used to the digital identity. But if you go down in Europe, they have a possibility to see this as a new tomorrow because the maturity of the digital identity implementation is quite different all over the European market. So for us, no, but for Europe, yes.
Roland?
Yeah, I think the EU Commission is already speeding up with the eIDAS 2.0 regulation and the upcoming digital identity EU wallet, which we are really looking forward to be part of it.
Martin?
Yes, digital identity is something that's very dear to me, as digital identity drives both the financial sector, the public sector, into allowing people to service themselves and to create very strong solutions, minimizing fraud and maximizing the ability to service yourself in a fast and efficient way, allowing digitalization throughout.
We'll come back to that later. Louise, could you please tell us about or elaborate a bit further about what digital identities are already used for today?
Well, let me start with the Danish success story because we have been using that for about 15 years in Denmark and it's part of our daily life. So if I want to apply for a bank loan, I can do that in 20 seconds if my bank sees that I have a credit ability to do that. If I need to get a divorce, just a fun fact, I can do that in 20 minutes. I enter my hospital records with my digital ID, I transfer my money with my digital ID, and I also allow my younger sons to have a bank account before they are 18 with my digital ID. So we are quite used to that actually. So that's just some of the stories that we are used to in Denmark. So as a citizen or a customer in the Danish society, we are quite well off from that perspective. It's seamless and it's easy and we can enter all the portals and all the daily life activities that we need to.
So what could we learn from this in a European context? What you have, your takeaways from Denmark?
I think we often see the digital identity in a commercial space. What will we gain from this if we do that? I think we need to shift the focus into the customer perspective. We have multiple interactions in the commercial space. How do we make it easy for the customer and how do we make it compliant also according to the regulatory that Roland is talking about? So I think we need to see it as a seamless 1 minute point for onboarding of your customers and how they want to interact in the community that you provide for them.
So Martin, do you also agree that we will see this evolve centered around digital identity out in Europe?
Yes, but there are two sides to this. The one is the
Sorry.
The one side is that digital identity allows you to identify yourself seamlessly to a number of services without having been created before. So you can interact with a financial institution, with the public sector, with an e-business of some kind without having been created beforehand, having them to know you. On the other hand, what we've seen in Denmark is that the next part of this has to be that we know more about you as an individual. But just knowing who you are in a precise and validated fashion allows for many, many use cases that simplifies people's life. And I'm sure this will go throughout Europe as digitalization prevails.
Exactly, and I think maybe Roland, you can also tell us about your view on how this will evolve in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, it will be mandatory for member states to provide an eID or digital EU wallet to all citizens. And all the citizens will have the possibility in the wallet to digitally identify themselves. And this will be based on national eID solutions which are already existing, like Speed in Italy, You have France Connect in France, you have the MIT and MID in Denmark. They will be able to store and manage their digital identity in form of personal attribute, credentials, and will have storage of the digital documents like their birth certificate, university degree. But I think the biggest point is based on self-sovereign identity, meaning that now you own your own data and you decide how much you would like to share. And this will be opening doors and be a huge opportunity for the market.
So what about the financial institutions in the EU and our market here, Louise? What is the perspective for the financial institutions?
I think one of the struggles is that a lot of financial institutions has a patchwork of IT legacy that they're struggling with. So doing a compliance workflow or doing a regulatory workflow that also benefits the customer is something that they're struggling with and have a trouble with identifying. But from a compliance perspective, you can always take the digital identity, secure the data, secure the trust towards your customer, and apply the digital identity as a bank ID. So you allow your customers to have the trust in the bank, easy access, and also be compliant according to the EU regulations that everybody is struggling to understand and interpret as well. So that's from a compliance perspective. From, for instance, an insurance perspective, it's easy onboarding, it's easy access to your data, your accounts, and it's easy upsell and cross-sell from a commercial perspective.
Martin, can you also can we have your view on this?
Yes, I fully agree with Louise's view on this being difficult due to a number of different legacy systems that are not really meant for the internet. On the other hand, I think that the approach that's been taken in Nordics, allowing many different solutions to be bridged into one, is the right way to go forward. Because a lot of initiatives have already been put through, and some of them has to be reused to make this prevail throughout Europe. Otherwise, it will be very difficult as if you had to change everything. And I think we've shown, especially in Denmark, that the ability to change from one existing model to another has been very strong. And even allowing to have further identification, providing your passport, whatever is needed, in order to step up the validation of your identity. However, on the other side, we're seeing that both from a banking perspective and from a private sector perspective, it's difficult to link your identity to what you are actually allowed to, and that would be the next step. Knowing you from when you buy a house, then you have to identify yourself to your lawyer, you have to identify yourself to the real estate broker, to the mortgage lending company, and to the bank. And this can be much more efficient going forward by having more knowledge about the individual.
Can I ask you in that response, what about privacy? Because in the Nordic countries we have a strong cultural heritage on this, and we can give our security number and no problem. Yeah. But in other countries, like in Germany, for example, this is quite controversial. Yeah. How do you see this evolve and how the citizens of Europe will take this in?
Yeah. Actually, it's a bit funny because in Denmark, we have one of the strictest countries on GDPR. Mm-hmm. And there's already been experiments where you give consent to people using your data. So that will be the future of privacy in all of Europe, I think. That you own your own data in some sort of data storage and allow, it could be a bank, could be a lawyer, whoever, to access your data and use that. Could be the same if you went to the hospital. You allowed them to see your healthcare record.
Exactly. Yeah.
Using the same identity, using the same procedure. Because what is the most difficult thing about security? That's learning people how to use it. 10 solutions nobody can use. One solution that's the same, whether you're buying a bank or getting a cosmetic operation. It's very easy if you can do it the same way.
Roland, do you have any views on this attitude in Europe towards these solutions? You come from Germany, France. What is your view on this?
I think there are several ingredients for success. First, the wallet needs to be user-friendly, it needs to be flexible, it needs to have the highest security standards, it needs to guarantee privacy control, it needs to be communicate with other systems, open network, it needs to be user-centric, and it needs to be working across Europe. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity. I mean, It will open a lot of opportunity for citizens, but also for companies. I mean, now I live in Sweden. I could open a bank account in Poland. I could apply for a loan in Italy if the interest rates are better. For banks, the opportunity will be they can do customer onboarding, they can do KYC via the wallet. My kids can study in other country and change their personal attributes and credentials via the wallet. When you are traveling, this will facilitate totally the process. So there's a lot of huge opportunities.
So can you see the same, Martin, that this upcoming EU digital wallet that EU is planning, is this something that could keep Europe even tighter together?
Yes, it will solve two issues. The one issue is that it will allow you to be in control of who have access to your data, you giving consent to a specific use for a specific period of time. That would be extremely helpful, and that would really drive privacy. The other very important feature of this is it will tell something about who you are in a specific context. You'll have your diplomas, you'll have your certificates, allowing you to prove that you are allowed to perform a specific function in the society, and that will also be extremely helpful.
Louise, a final question for you. Yeah. When being at this Money 2020, you have heard a lot about digital identity, and this is a hot topic. Yeah. So what is your takeaway from this venue?
My takeaway is that it's a complicated area and very much focused on regulatory and technical infrastructure behind a common EU identity. I think we need to take it down a little bit and maybe cut the pieces of cake one by one and do the digital identity in stepwise, because having a common EU identity structure is maybe taking a step back. It takes too long time to be ready with that. I think the wallet is the way through. And then I think from the commercial landscape, there are opportunities evolving incredibly fast. Also, if you look at the fintech companies, they are fast and they are agile, but the regulatory stuff is not part of their strength, so that's where we come in. And then I would like to take up the opportunity to say, if we have a big bank in Europe, why not look into the app possibilities, onboarding, interacting with your customers, and be compliant at the same time? It doesn't have to be very complicated, because our API-based solution make the workflow behind irrelevant. So we can just do the front end and the onboarding and the KYC. So that's
so actually the solutions are there, but it's more a matter of the political
it's a more matter of the political aspect and how much we discuss the regulatory instead of looking at the customer and what do we need to provide for the customer to make it relevant for the customer. Instead of having 10 years of regulatory discussions, let's talk about the customer and what do we want to provide to be customer-centric in a compliant way.
So the $1 million question for you, Martin, is what is the time for this? Will this evolve within the couple of years? It took 15 years in Denmark. So when will Europe be on this solution?
All of Europe, it's hard to say. The major countries who have already taken the first step into digitization will be actually a much shorter time frame than we expect, because the last years of Corona has driven digitalization to a point where we cannot go any further without having a common digital identity. So let's say 2 or 3 to 5 years, I think that most of the major countries will be involved in some sort of digital identity, also driven by the EU regulation.
And Roland, can you nod to this in the light of what we've seen the past years with COVID? Has this sort of accelerated this need for these solutions?
Yes, there's definitely a need, and it has accelerated due to COVID. And I'm also happy to mention that we are part of the consortium together with member states and other companies from the private sector, where we are working on a prototype, on a, you can say, like the reference wallet. We are working on cross-border use cases, and this wallet will be the basic for all future wallets where member states will need to submit a wallet to their user. I think the biggest important aspect is the harmonization between private and public sector. They need to team up and work as a team. This is the most important. This is what happened in Denmark. We have the harmonization between private and public sectors. That's why it has been very successful and 99.9% in use. And this is very important. And I think another important topic is not to forget large corporations, large companies, and to create a solution which will be available in a cloud or on a desktop not only in a wallet. It calls wallet, but it should be also, we should not forget the large corporate.
Thank you very much. Time is nearly up, so I will sum up our discussion here. And I can, I think, say that we will see evolving digital identity across Europe really speeding up in the coming years with projects like you mentioned, the digital identity wallet, and also financial solutions in institutions, authorities, customers. They expect this seamless mobile digital identity tool to be part of the near future. So it's definitely going to be very interesting to see this unfold in the coming years. Thank you very much, all three of you. And if any of you in the audience or listening to this on the stream would like to learn more about this topic, I can recommend that you have a look at our NETS and NEXI white paper on this topic on nets.eu, and maybe also read a fresh, newly published perspective article about the digital identity wallets going live today. So that's all for now. Coming up at 1 o'clock later today is a talk about e-commerce here at the NEXI Lounge. So thank you and see you soon. Thank you very much.